Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. All right, everybody. I'm back. Gonna be back. So tell you what, it is, we're approaching mid-June here. It's an interesting time on the calendar. A lot of just different stuff overlapping. Obviously, we're going to start ramping up our college football coverage here in the coming weeks. If you are a college hoops fan, we have started our off-season grade series. We did Louisville on Sunday. We did Florida last week. And we still got Carolina and Duke and Kansas and UConn and Kentucky and Arkansas and BYU and Arizona and on and on and on and on and on. So I just bring it up. We got plenty of content for you. We got plenty of content, but it is also a time where I think college basketball recruiting news is going to start to ramp up June into July, into mid-July, because, of course, mid-July, Peach Jam, all of the major events. Then from there, kids start cutting lists, setting up visits, etc. And so a lot of recruiting stuff here coming in the coming weeks and months. But that said, there was certainly an interesting piece of recruiting news that dropped on Sunday night, and it involved the young gentleman that you can see on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. If not, the young gentleman I'm talking about is Tyran Stokes, the #1 junior in America, 2026. He's going into his senior year. He's originally from the state of Kentucky. He is now playing ball about 10 minutes from where I live, Notre Dame High School in Sherman Oaks, California. I actually drive by that high school to go to the workout in the mornings every day. But anyway, I bring it up because it had been a little bit of an interesting, quiet recruitment so far, at least until Sunday night, when out of nowhere, Travis Branham, 24/7 Sports, reported that Tyran Stokes was visiting the University of Kentucky. So let's go ahead and talk about, what does it mean? Does it mean anything? Where does it stack up? He has already visited Kansas and Louisville. What does it all mean? Let's go ahead and dive in. First of all, Tyran Stokes, listen, I'll try to be quick on the who he is as a player. I think it's important, but I think if you're watching this video, you kind of know a little bit about him. But #1 high school player in America going into a senior year. Really good player. 6'6", kind of like a power wing. I think that's kind of the best way to describe him. Probably closer to 6'7" at this point. He's grown a little bit over the last year, but kind of one of these guys, he's got a grown man's body. He's physical. He attacks the rim. I love the way he plays. A lot of aggression. I think a lot of controlled anger. Sometimes when you say somebody plays angry, you think of like Albert Bell. I don't know. It's an old school reference, but running dudes. Oh, no. Like, I think he plays angry in a good way, chip on his shoulder. And he's just a very, very gifted player. I think, on top of the power that he has at 6'7" as a 17, 18-year-old, also a nice shooting touch. He competes on both ends of the floor. Really have enjoyed watching him play. And you can see very quickly why he has become the #1 player in America. I also think that's an important part of the conversation about Tyran Stokes specifically. What's especially interesting about Tyran Stokes is that has been the #1 player in America, wasn't going to play high school AAU this summer, so wasn't going to play on the circuit, then decides in the first period where coaches can be in the gym that he is going to play, and immediately establish himself as like, oh yeah, this is the best dude in high school basketball right now. And what I loved about that is that I do think that at times when a player is really good against, let's be honest, it's inferior competition. Not a knock on high school players, but this is a kid that could probably step into college basketball next year and compete at a very high level. Sometimes guys tend to play down to their competition. He stepped in first live period that he was there for and just dominated everybody, reasserted himself as like, oh yeah, this is the best player in high school basketball. Okay. So now let's talk about his recruitment. He was on a visit to Kentucky. First of all, I'll say this because I think it's an important note on Tyran Stokes, is that about probably a month ago, he visited Kansas. And prior to that visit, I did a video, I did a reaction. We talked about it on the pod. And I did say, like, I think reclassification is in the cards for this kid. And I think I even said at the time, it wouldn't surprise me if he reclassified, and maybe I expect him to reclassify about a month ago. Well, I bring it up because, listen, a couple things. One, if I ever get anything wrong, I'm not somebody that ducks from it or hides from it. And I will say, as much as I heard about reclassification about a month ago, I think it's a little bit on the back burner right now. I'm told he likes the community out here in California. I'm told also, I mean, I think also you just have to kind of look at the rosters, right? The schools that seem to be recruiting them, Louisville, largely pretty kind of set for next year. Kentucky, well, they got 13 dudes that can all suit up and play for Mark Pope tomorrow if he needs him to. So I don't know that there's a lot of spots where there's like an obvious spot, obvious opportunity ahead for him. Kansas is probably the one that, like, they kind of need more bodies still, even here in mid-June. So I do wonder, like, if Kansas really pushed for the reclass, would he commit to Kansas, play college basketball next year? But right now, I do think it's fair to work under the assumption that he will be playing high school basketball next year and that he is a true 2026 kid, something that I don't know that I felt a month ago. So let's fast forward. Let's talk about the Kentucky visit. Listen, I think if you're a Kentucky fan, you should feel really good. Now, I'll be totally transparent. I don't think there's a leader right now. I don't know why I did the Dr. Evil leader thing, but you know what I mean. I don't think there's a quote unquote leader right now. And I just think it's because of the simple thing of this recruitment is so early. It's so fresh. If he is staying in 2026, then he's got upwards of maybe not quite a year, but he's got 10 months to decide. And so I don't want to start, this team's the leader or this team's that. No, that's not fair to the kid. That's not fair to the schools that are recruiting him. But I think if you're a Kentucky fan, you got to feel good about where you stand. First of all, you got him on campus. And again, it's early. Lots of stuff is going to change. But, I haven't heard of very many five-star kids committing to a place that they've never visited, at least out of high school. You see that in the portal all the time, but I don't really see a lot of high school kids, five-star guys, committing to places they've never been. So one, he's from Kentucky. There's a familiarity with the University of Kentucky, but he's been away for the last 2 years. And I think it's great for Mark Pope that he got that kid on campus, even if it's 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever it ends up being. A familiarity with the coaching staff, a familiarity with the program, a familiarity with the new coaching staff, because of course, while we don't, I think, view Mark Pope as being new, there's obviously going to be players that have relationships with the previous coaching staff that Mark Pope, has to start to build his own relationships, something that he is doing with the Stokes family. And so if you're a Kentucky fan, I think, one, you got him on campus. Two, I just think what'll be interesting to follow, and what I do think is going to be a solid pitch for Mark Pope in Kentucky, I think he's going to have a very good 2026 recruiting class. 2024 and 2025, it's been mostly local kids, even the five stars, Jasper Johnson, Malachi Moreno, whatever. I think 2026 is where he could really get some national guys, because now you have a year's worth of film of like, what Mark Pope is doing not only worked for 1 year in the Big 12, not only was great in the WCC at BYU, but it works in the SEC. As we've talked about a million times, had the number one, had a team that was good enough to probably win it all, beats Florida, beats Duke at full strength. And so you have that on film. And then I think the other thing is that, they just feel like they're in good position for a lot of the best players in this class. Jason Crow Jr., he is a kid, 6'3" guard out of Inglewood, California. His dad and Jason Hart go back to when they were kids. They played together since they were kids, okay? And so I only bring it up because I think you should feel pretty good about Jason Crow as a Kentucky fan, that you're going to be at least in the mix, if not get him outright. And so you have that great relationship there. Good players want to play with other good players. You get one, the dominoes start falling. But I just bring it up because with Tyran Stokes, wherever he goes, he's going to want to play with other good players. And I think he can do that in other places, but I think it's going to line up nicely for Kentucky. Jason Crow Jr., I think they should feel in really good shape for. Christian Collins, top 10 prospect, said he wants to visit Kentucky. Taj Ariza, a top 5 prospect, another LA kid, has actually said he plans to visit Kentucky once we get to the fall. So I just bring it up because Mark Pope seems like he is setting up a very, very, very nice recruiting class for 2026. And what's also kind of interesting and worth noting is that Mark Pope is going to be part of the Team USA workouts in a couple weeks that Tyran Stokes is going to be part of. So for people who don't know, Team USA, U19, they're playing overseas. There's a 33-player mini camp. They're going to choose 12 players from that. And not only is Tyran Stokes one of the 33 that's going to be there, but in addition to the regular coaching staff, Tommy Lloyd's the head coach from Arizona, they're bringing in a couple coaches to just kind of help with on-court workouts. So Mark Pope is one of those coaches. So Mark Pope is going to be able to work hand in hand with Tyran Stokes, with Christian Collins, with some of the other big names in 2026, which certainly isn't a bad thing, especially as it pertains to Tyran Stokes. Now, what I would also say, by the way, with Team USA, there's going to be other good coaches there. Nate Oates is part of that group. Hubert Davis is certainly part of that group as well. So Mark Pope's not the only one, but I think that's worth noting as well. Now, as far as everything else with Tyran Stokes, I think that's where it gets interesting because to me, it feels like, listen, other schools are going to try to get involved. Arkansas, with John Calipari, with his ties to the state of Kentucky as a whole. I know Tyran Stokes isn't there, but John Calipari is going to try to get in the mix. Arkansas as well. But I think these three that have gotten a visit, I don't think there's going to be like a million schools coming in from the outside. Like I don't think, let me give you an example. AJ DeBonsa, we talked to him about it a couple weeks ago when we were in Provo. And he said really his recruiting process did not start until after the summer of last year. Schools were communicating with his dad. Him and his dad kind of figured out which schools they wanted to visit. And then the recruiting process really started with the 7 schools that they visited. BYU, North Carolina, all the schools that he visited. And so to fast forward to Tyran Stokes, I don't see, after the summer, a bunch of schools that aren't involved right now all of a sudden being in the mix. I'm not saying that there can't be one, that there can't be two, but I think it's probably going to be Kentucky, Louisville, Kansas, Arkansas, maybe one or two others. And then from there, we'll see what happens. Like I said, I don't think there's a leader. If I was even trying to sort a handicap, I think Louisville's got to feel like they're in really good shape. Pat Kelsey is a dog. I think anybody who's listened to this show knows the respect that I have for Pat Kelsey. And it'll be interesting to see what he does this year because that Louisville team has a chance to be really, really, really good. We just did our offseason grade series with Louisville. And so obviously I think everybody knows how much I expect of Pat Kelsey in Louisville. And Pat Kelsey is a great recruiter. And Pat Kelsey, just like Mark Pope, is going to put a competitive roster on the court. They're going to be very good this year. And Pat Kelsey ain't backing down to anybody. So Tyran Stokes is from the city of Louisville. I think he's going to be in there until the very end. Tyran Stokes has already taken a visit there, so that's worth noting as well. By the way, Pat Kelsey, much like Mark Pope, is going to have other good players in that program to play with him. Worth noting, I didn't mention it earlier, but Talon Kinney, who's a 5-star, high 4-star or high 4-star, low 5-star, depending on the service. Some have him as a 5, some have him as a 4. But he was visiting Louisville this weekend as well. He's from he's from Kentucky as well, plays at Overtime Elite. So I'm just throwing a lot of stuff against the wall right now. But I guess the point that I'm trying to make is that Louisville is going to be in position to put good players around him as well. We'll see with Kansas. Again, I don't think Tyran Stokes visits if he thinks there's 0% chance that he has an opportunity to go there. And so we'll see what happens. But Kansas is just kind of in an interesting boat because, Bill Self is clearly – last 2 years have not been good, shook up his coaching staff. You just wonder, I don't want to start speculating on like retirement or anything. I think other people in the media have gotten in trouble for doing that. This does kind of feel like an important year for Bill Self. Not that he isn't going to go down as a legend, but just more of, if it doesn't really work this year, this past season, 2024, 2025, you went heavy on the portal. The year before, you went heavy with Hunter Dickinson. This year, you're going all in on Darren Peterson and Flory Badunga. It just feels like this is kind of a year where if Bill Self doesn't figure it out, I think there's going to be a lot of frustration. But Tyran Stokes did visit Kentucky, and I think this is the first of many, many, many updates that we have on him. Great for Mark Pope to get that kid on campus. Great for him to have the opportunity to work with him going forward. But this is going to be a dogged recruitment going forward. I'll be curious to follow this one and see what happens.